overseas, have you seen any of these local products, Singapore-made products when you travel?
Yeah, I think I have. In Asia, there is.
What are the products?
Those that I mentioned, Tiger Balm and X-Brand Oil. Yeah.
Where did you see them?
I think I saw in Taiwan, yeah, and Malaysia.
Means when you travel overseas, did you happen to see, oh, there's this a Singapore product there?
Bread Talk in Jakarta. I guess it's the awareness that they have actually created, that kind of image, corporate image that is a bread boutique. So it to them probably it's like kind of cool to be seen there, or it shows that kind of social status that can afford this type of bread. Because I think in Jakarta and all that, bread is relatively not that expensive lah. But to go into Bread Talk to them it requires a kind of affordability and affluence. Yeah.
In such a competitive global marketplace, what does it really take for Singaporean companies to capture a slice of the lucrative overseas market?
I guess it needs to be something that people would want. Like for example, fast food generally. There's always a demand for food. So I think food would be a good way for a product to succeed. And I guess something that would be, uniquely Singaporean that can be marketed overseas, like chili crab. Chili crab in a can.
There are a lot of success stories in terms of food. I think you see that Singapore, because of a multiracial background, we are able to have food that is very appealing to all nationality. Our, laksa, our chicken rice. And I was told that our chicken rice did very well in Russia, in a high-end restaurant in Russia. I was told that a plate of chicken rice was selling for 120 US per plate. So you can see that if you are able to market and brand your products well, you can appeal to even to market that is far away.
Okay, so maybe no chili crabs in a can yet, but the taste of Singapore is definitely wrapped up in a curry puff. Nicola reveals what makes Old Chang Kee curry puffs a uniquely Singapore export.
When you bite into an Old Chang Kee curry puff, have you ever wondered, is it local? Where does it come from? Do they have outlets overseas? And just how different is Old Chang Kee overseas? Okay, well, you probably don't think that much when you eat a curry puff. Starting out as a small coffee shop store selling curry puffs in 1956, Old Chang Kee has expanded the range of products to include other snacks and desserts, and can be found in supermarket outlets, roadside stalls and shopping malls, and even overseas. Hi guys, I'm here at the Old Chang Kee factory today, and I'm standing here with William, who is the CEO of this Singapore company which has made it overseas. So William, can you tell me how successful is Old Chang Kee overseas?
Well, we're just at the tip of the iceberg. We're actually learning the different culture of other countries, which Singapore food like curry puff is a culture, but in other countries probably we are learning the different tastes, different culture, different consumer habits. So we are learning the process because different country got different culture and different concept in buying as well as consumption. So we are learning through it. At the moment, we have in 4 countries, in mainly Jakarta, Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia, and China.
Have you had any pitfalls along the way? Because you mentioned like different tastes and different cultures. Right. So what are some things you had to adapt?
Okay, we have to adapt to the culture in a way that what's their buying habit, what is their style of eating. Like for example, curry in Singapore is quite accepted. But in China, they want it to be a different curry, they want mala. So we have to actually adjust the recipe or maybe implement a new taste for these countries.
So have you like stumbled along the way and had to fix anything?
Well, of course, when you go overseas, you are probably in different culture, different geographical region, different seasons, for example, because Singapore is always summer. But in other countries, you have the 4 seasons, so we adapt to the eating habit for the 4 seasons. Because it's not like one season fit all. Yeah. So we have to adapt to it.
Our reporter Elsie, she recently spoke to some people along the street, and the general consensus is that food is one of the easiest exports. Because everybody has to eat, right? So do you agree with this?
I think food, in terms of exporting overseas, you have to look in terms of the culture, the consumer habit, and the style of eating. I think that's more rather than just food. I think food have more challenges than other things in terms of the whole industry. Yeah, because the thing is that food is something where different countries got different culture. Because the thing is that you are brought up in Singapore, your culture is different. If you go to overseas, it's different. So the thing is that we have to adapt to the culture in order to survive. Yeah.
So there's a lot more to exporting food than you actually think. You've expanded to Paikya and there's a dining outlet as well. Do you think expansion is the way to go, or how about branching out into other countries?
I think the Singapore market itself is about 4 million people. There's still a very lucrative market for F&B. And what we are trying to do is to Old Chang Kee to make our base broader, because from one product probably we can extend, the product extension will be there. Of course, going to other countries is good, but it takes time in terms of learning the culture, as learning the adaptation of the food products.
What do you think a Singapore company like Old Chang Kee or even like Charles and Keith or something, what do you think they have to do to become a global brand?
I think many much on the people as well as the brand identity. We must be strong in our home base before actually we go venture overseas.
Do you think you will be expanding global anytime soon? Maybe like in the States or London or something?
Well, I think that's everybody's dream in Singapore to go global. But the thing is that I think we need time and adaptation to the culture as well as to how global player works. Because once you go out of Singapore, probably the logistic will be different. The people thinking will be different. The weather will be different. So the thing is that we have to adapt to it. So Singapore companies that goes overseas need to take this consideration carefully and build your home base first before actually move out.
There's no mistaking Old Chang Kee for a local brand, but there are some Singapore brands that could be easily mistaken as foreign instead.
Do you know what are some of the local brands?
Kind of like Magnolia, I think.
Okay. Any others?
Good question. I have no idea, really.
What about like clothing, shoes and bag, apparel brands that you know of that are local?
None, I think.
None? Okay.
Yeah, I don't really recall any.
Alright, okay.
Yeah.
What about things like URS? Does it sound local to you? Okay, what about Giordano?
Giordano kind of sounds semi-local.
What about Charles and Keith?
No, not local.
Not local. And Charles and Keith is a local brand. Okay.
But why Charles?
Things like Charles and Keith, does it sound local to you?
No, I would say it's more American.
American. Does it look Singaporean brand to you?
It doesn't, yeah. Charles and Keith actually sound British, so I don't know. Is that a local brand?
It is! Yeah!
Serious, Charles and Keith? Wow, alright, I learn something new every day.
Do you know that Charles and Keith is a local brand?
Yes, I know.
Okay. Are there any clothing, apparel, shoes and bags brands that are local?
Charles and Keith?
We're very glad to have Lauren here at the Charles and Keith outlet at CityLink Mall. She oversees basically the international business development for Charles and Keith. So in the first place, may I know where you're from, Lauren?
I'm from France.
Okay, so when you look up for a job in Singapore, when you moved to Singapore, did Charles and Keith strike you as a very Singaporean brand?
No, it did not strike me as a Singaporean brand, actually. It struck me as an international brand. I thought it was very attractive. I thought the shops looked really good. And hence my idea to apply for a job at Charles & Keith.
Okay, all right. So basically we have done like some street posts recently, and we found that actually, a lot of Singaporeans themselves did not know that this is a very successful local brand that have made it overseas. Yeah, so is it intentional on the part of the founders?
I think on the part of the founders, they're proud, of course, to be Singaporean and to have a Singaporean brand. But it's true that when you go overseas, to have something that sounds international and that's not national is also very good, because it helps you get into the different markets easier.
Yeah, that's right, and that explains why Charles & Keith have made it really big overseas. How many overseas outlets are there right now?
Now we count around 140 outlets overseas.
Which is the strongest overseas market?
Overseas, our strongest market would be Indonesia. Also because it's one of our first franchise overseas. So a very long history with them, and it's been going very well for us.
And then what about the second strongest?
Other very strong market for us are Egypt and Dubai are doing very well for us. And in the new markets we recently opened in 2008 that are very strong are Turkey is doing very well. Cyprus, which is the first country in the European Union, and Vietnam is doing very well also in the new countries.
Okay, so it spans across the globe, from Southeast Asia to Middle East. And I heard there is also outlet in the Australia.
Australia, actually, we used to have outlets and we stopped operation for a time being. We're looking to reopen hopefully in 2009.
All right, okay. So would you be able to tell us why is it that, Charles & Keith apparels like shoes and bags have strong appeal in this overseas market, especially, in terms of the Middle East?
First, I think Charles & Keith is quite pioneer in the shoe industry, in the sense that it brought affordable, very fashionable design with the whole concept without smashing the price. You see a lot of, the brands usually it's either you're going to have very nice design and a very nice shop, but the price is going to be off the roof. Or you're going to have affordable prices, but the concept will not be nice, the design usually will not be nice, and quality will be very bad. So I think what Charles & Keith brings to everyone is a bit of everything, the best of both worlds. And I think this is very important, and this is why we're having so much success overseas and in Singapore. We have about 70 designers that are actually working on making sure that each country has what it needs for its customers. So for example, wedges will be very strong in Dubai, so we make sure that our designers will come up with wedges to cater for the Dubai customers. For those countries that have winter, of course we have a full boot line, covered shoes, which we might not have in Singapore because of course it doesn't sell here.
Okay, all right. So localization is the key, right?
It's very important.
Yeah, so everyone has been talking about the economic downturn. So has it affected Charles & Keith in any way?
I think, we talk a lot about the crisis. Definitely it's happening. But Charles & Keith maybe is more protected than other brands. Also because we kind of offer to the customer something that's still affordable. So it's a bit like we offer them a bit of sunshine in this turmoil, because they still can afford to splurge on Charles & Keith and to buy a pair of shoes. It's not going to be that difficult on their budget.
So at this point in time, we'd like to know, what are some of the future directions that Charles & Keith have, like in terms of expansion plan,
I think there's two things. Definitely with the crisis, we want to be prudent. We don't want to go too fast or go without thinking twice. So the first step, of course, is to strengthen all the operations, be it in Singapore or be it abroad in the existing countries, to make sure that everything is very strong and can resist the crisis. Then the second step is, yes, there is a crisis, but we cannot stop evolving and expanding, because we also believe that within the crisis there will be opportunities. Maybe other retailers closing down, maybe malls that cannot afford to negotiate so toughly on rentals. So we also believe that within this crisis will be some opportunities to expand.
Some say familiarity breeds contempt, but many Singaporeans do feel a gratifying sense of pride when they spot Singapore products overseas.
Quite surprised lah, and a bit proud maybe, that local products do go a long way.
I feel proud because it's like Singapore, our only resource is our people. So when we create brands, then especially when when it carries on overseas, so it's we see part of Singapore overseas. So I feel very proud of Singapore for being able to showcase our talent this way.